Hello, Gelada here, charismatic Mexican cartoonist extraordinaire. Gelada greets you amicably. This is something that I'm not very skilled at. This being basically talking off the cuff, off my head, off the top of my head, just turning on the microphone and talking in English, which is, as you must have gathered by now, not my native language. I want to be able to do this though, because I want to be able to pump out videos, and it's so laborious and time consuming to write a script for a video that nobody will really, well, I say nobody, but very few people will actually end up watching. And I think if I am able to produce more videos more often, I'll have more of a chance to reach people. And I want to reach people because I have a great, I have a lot of things to say. These videos, the goal here is to deliver your soul, dear listener, to deliver your soul to Satan. You see, I am a Satanist, and I want to make a Satanist out of you as well. And I want the plan, like the way I plan to achieve this is via innocuous sounding little talks about different subjects, mainly pop culture, I think, because that's something that everyone is interested in, or well, most people are interested in. I am interested in it, and yeah, I'm a culture maker. I am a comic book author. I'm a 3D artist. I sculptor. I draw. I do a bunch of things. I write as well. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about culture, and today's video, the first video, most likely one, this will be a really clumsy video, no doubt. Will be about the new series, HBO series, based on the work of Stephen King, the famous horror writer. That the series name is It, Welcome to Derry, a sort of spin-off of the famous book about the sort of evil, magical, child-eating clown called Pennywise. Yeah, so this is a new series, and I watched the first episode. I watched it. It's about 50 minutes long, but I must have watched it in the course of 20 minutes, because what I do is I start, if I'm gonna watch something that I know is not gonna be good, and it's gonna also have, nihilist elements, woke elements, communist elements, which piss me off. And then I know that I have to it's not that I have to, but I prefer not to waste my time on it, and I just sort of skim through it. If there is anything I try to listen to the dialogue, I try to give it a fair shot, but there's not a great deal of, there's not a really a great density of thought in most of these things nowadays. Culture has really, as you must be aware, has really fallen into an age of decadence in the West. But anyway, this new series, I watched it. I watched the first episode, and I think I can share some thoughts about it that are interesting, that could be interesting to other people. So the general idea of the series is that you you're gonna follow this group of children living in the 1960s in this town called Derry in the United States, and they're gonna be terrorized and hopefully eventually, well, actually murdered and eaten by this lovely, beautiful, evil clown. And they do get eaten, because that's something that is a bit frustrating in the first book, that you know that a bunch of those kids, because you know that they're gonna survive into adulthood, adulthood. Yeah, it's a difficult language, English. Anyway, you know that they're gonna survive unmaimed, or largely unmaimed at least. But that is not the case with the characters in the series. The absolutely best case scenario would be to have every single character or important character in the series end up, in Pennywise's belly by the end of it. That would be just fucking peachy. But, well, and we're off to a good start in that sense, because you have, I didn't count them, but there's at least, I think, half or more than half of the kids. It's a group of about, I think, 6 children that do end up getting the axe during the course of the series, or of the first episode. This magical, evil spirit, shape-shifting spirit that takes often the form of a carnivorous clown. Although he will terrorize these kids and eventually eat them, I am certainly not making a good. I think that if people click on this video, they the hypothetical people that would click on this video would most likely be people that have already that are very familiar with the story. But I think, be able to introduce the general idea of the narrative, and I think that I'm not doing a great job at that right now. But I chalk that up to the fact that, I'm just really new to this talking alone into a mic business. So, I just wanted to basically hit record and force myself to talk and to upload it. No matter how clumsy it is. But, well, let me just jump into an idea that could have some worth. Like, in the episode, something that I thought is that the clown, the evil spirit, transforms itself into, shapeshifts into different, characters, in order to first, terrorize the children that he plans to eat, and then, of course, to kill them. You feel like there's not really a very great interest in, like, the murders seem kind of ritualistic, in the sense that you don't feel that he, like you feel that maybe he's kind of wasteful with the children, like the way he kills them. I'm not sure that he's really profiting very much from the meat. Like, most likely he doesn't really need it. He just eats the emotions, or the soul, or something like that, which is a cool idea. But anyway, the way typically in which this director makes the spirit attack is that he takes a form of very nimble, very quick creatures. In this episode, he takes the form of a sort of a giant mutant baby with wings, sort of a demon baby with 2 heads and claws, that is supposedly the product of, that is meant to look like what a child would imagine, a baby damaged by nuclear radiation might look like a pulp version of something like that. And the baby in the episode is very nimble and is very fast, and sort of it just hysterically darts around the screen and bang like a fly banging against the walls. And I feel that that is really ineffective. Like, the episode is not, I didn't find it frightening at all. And and a big part of why I didn't find it frightening is because of these sort of hysterical, fast moving monsters. And I thought that that really isn't the way that predators move, you know. The predators typically move in the natural world, they move very slowly, like methodically, slowly, and then very fast all of a sudden. And typically they either catch or fail to catch their prey in that burst of movement, in that sudden burst of fast movement. And most of the time, if they fail, then they relent. Sometimes they persevere a little bit. I saw once a chase by a snow leopard in the mountains, chasing a goat, one of those mountain goats, and it was really spectacular the way they sort of ran through the cliffs, you know, almost what seemed like almost a vertical wall, and the leopard pursued the goat. I don't remember if he ends up catching it, but it was quite a long pursuit. But through it all, the leopard looked very, of course, very skillful, very beautiful. You know, I think that I was talking to my girlfriend, and I was telling her that I think the ideal way for an evil, ghostly, spiritual menace to move is what you see in the Japanese films, the Japanese, like the Grudge films or the Ring films, in which a creature is, most of the time, it sort of moves very slowly, and it's really terrifying when it moves that way because it feels like destiny. It feels like it is destined to catch you, like something that you can't run away, something like like a slowly blooming flower of terror, you know, like something that you recognize what it is, and maybe it's so frightening that you can't even move. But then, of course, if you do manage to move, then you start running, and just like as if you were in a Looney Tunes cartoon, you find out that you run away from it, but then you see that you're running into it, like somehow it teleported and now it is in front of you, you know, that sort of power, where the issue really for the creature is not to physically overpower you, that whatever, like, it's kind of an absurd idea in the books, because the clown is supposed to be pretty much like a god, not even a spirit, but like an alien god, you know, a completely like a fundamental, like a force of the cosmos. And it is, of course, able to regenerate, to transform, it is immortal, at least in principle. Like, it is not gonna, time is never going to exhaust it. It is able to perform incredible feats, like, of course, teleporting, healing, or you're at one point in the book, the Pennywise, I believe, were suggest that he tries to negotiate with his enemies by telling them that, hey, listen, leave me alone, and I'm gonna touch you, and you will live for maybe thousands of years or something like that, you know. So it is absolutely absurd to imagine a world in which such an absolute, godly being, or like completely omnipotent magical creature, would be unable to defeat a bunch of children. And in the recent movies, you even have this idea, of course, that hey, you can defeat it because if you can believe that you can defeat it, then it is vulnerable to that belief and becomes weak, and you can destroy it if just so long as you're not afraid of it. But in the film, they actually show that he has like his naked form in the which is supposed to be like this little constellation of burning lights, is supposed to just erase your mind. Like in the book, I believe that there's just one, like a woman or a couple of characters that behold just the naked form of it, of this evil spirit, and they are just left in a catatonic state, in a like as if they were in a coma. They're completely unresponsive. So like the idea is, even if you like if you want to ignore the fact that it's just meant to be physically stronger than you, and the idea that, of course, since the creature can read your mind, it could, of course, I understand perfectly the idea that the monster is a metaphor, and therefore, metaphorically, you can also defeat it. I'm not dense in that way. I understand that it's not really speculative fiction dealing with the possibility of such a real creature existing, but rather a metaphor. But I just think it's not really worked out all that well, because you have this sort of balancing act between this sense of the characters having what is called plot armor, where the clown just sort of teases them and tries to terrify them, but doesn't go in for the finishing blow. But then, of course, when he does mean to kill them, by then they have developed successful countermeasures against him. So it should be interesting in the series that, since of course canonically the only characters meant to really ever have successfully stood up to Pennywise, or well, the creature known as Pennywise in the past, were the protagonist of the book, and you have this sort of you will have, of course, during the course of the series, different groups of children that try to go against that try to defend themselves at the very least from Pennywise, but you know that they cannot ever be canonically successful in any meaningful way. But I sort of left the theme, the idea hanging of how a monster should move. Yeah, so all of this to say that if the monster is meant to be this sort of spirit acting as a metaphor for the destructive, terrible, our worst childhood fears and all that, I think that there is for all its limitations, the original miniseries that they did, that I was so traumatized by it as a kid. I remember I was so frightened as a kid by the miniseries. I mean, I never even actually watched it. I remember just watching the commercials, and as a small child, and finding the fear unbearable. And I think that rewatching some of those scenes, for example, the scene in the shower, where there's this kid that is alone in the showers, and it's just so effective because of the psychological component, and the sense of total powerlessness And when you have this sort of the psychological component, I mean, if you know which scene I am talking about in the showers, you have this sort of, first of all, you have a kid that is alone in the showers of a gymnasium. And just the fact of being alone there, washing himself, is already a failure. You know, he's already a social outcast. He's already probably too ashamed of his own naked form to shower at the same time as other people would shower, and then you have the sort of telescoping, extending shower heads that pump out, burning hot water onto him. The of course the shower heads are very, they're a phallic. There's a phallic dimension to them, like the fear of the penises of all the other, like the maybe a sort of sexual dimension to the fear of that. But the fact that it's expressed indirectly, and the fact that it's, all practical effects that you can really touch and feel, because digital effects, they are the really the big challenge is how to make them physical, and people just seem to have completely stopped trying in that regard. They much prefer to just what I've noticed is that they prefer to just make everything look digital, like everything looks digital, instead of trying to make the digital look real. They prefer to make the actors and all the photographed elements look computer generated. And this is certainly the case with this series. But anyway, it's really not frightening. It's not frightening at all. It's not frightening because the monster, the way it moves, is not frightening. Because even though their intention of, having the monster portray psychological fears of children is there, the intention is there, the sort of elegance of them, the sort of feeling that there is this lost, the children should be, lost little lambs within those nightmares, as they were in the original miniseries, as they were, of course, a little bit in the book. Or the problem is that the way that the Stephen King characters function, they're so insolent. They're so, these brats. They have a lot of. I feel that they don't really act the way children would when faced with such a, with such a thing. And if you really were to meet your worst fears in that way, as a kid, you wouldn't be trying to be funny or smart or say something clever at the moment. And that's something that's really typical of today, like the unwillingness of making to make really serious villains, villains that have an elegance and a power and a majesty to them, and then a sense of inevitability around their aggression, around their destruction. That is really important. But I'm such a huge fan of the concept. I'm not really a huge fan of the book. I'm not really a huge fan of the original miniseries either. I'm certainly not a fan at all of the recent film adaptations, and I'm not a huge fan of this series. But I'm such a huge fan of the concept of the evil clown, of the evil shape-shifting clown, that I'm gonna have to keep on watching these episodes, at least skimming through them to, get to the good parts with Pennywise. Anyway, I'm not sure how this sort of rambling, horrible, clumsy rambling is supposed to make to have made more of a Satanist out of you. No, okay, maybe there is an element there, like the fact of that. If you want to be a hero, if you want a convincing, beautiful hero to make a convincing, beautiful story, well, you need a convincing, beautiful antagonist. You need some, because the antagonist really is a story. And you have it here, like people watch these for the clown. The clown is the reason why there is a story, and the money is spent on the clown scenes. The rest is meant to be, filler, really fluff, and like it doesn't have to be, but it is. And really, there's something really satanic about that, about the reality that in the West, you typically have reactive heroes, which is a very Christian idea. That, of course, action belongs to Satan. The story is the villain. Without the villain, you have no story, because you don't have heroes that have initiative, because according to God, initiative is a sin. You're not supposed to have initiative. You're supposed to be obedient. You're supposed to be passive. You're supposed to be obedient is the central thing. And initiative is a fundamentally satanic thing. It's hubris, it's ambition, and all the deadly sins, gluttony, like the desires in general, not even only sexual desire or desire for wealth, but all desire is, of course, meant to be seen with, at the very least, suspicion. And that's just really hypocritical and incoherent and stupid. But that is the world we live in, the Christian world. Everyone's a Christian in this world, even most of the people that are really, really Christian, they call themselves atheist nowadays. But the way their minds and their morality is structured is completely Christian. But anyway, I think that's enough. I'm not really sure if this is something that anyone could ever listen to. Maybe it is. I don't know. There are countless hours of garbage that are uploaded to the internet every day, so this is my little grain of salt to add to them. And yeah, it's just an exercise to force myself to talk and record it and upload it. So this was the first one. Future ones should be hopefully better. But anyway, make monsters slow again. Make them frightening and elegant and beautiful and mean and cruel, and make them have a sense of inevitability, of destiny, of authority to them, and make them feel tangible, not digital, not hysterical little flies, hysterical little weightless flies darting around, but rather, like an iceberg up ahead that just looms suddenly over the horizon, and you try to steer away from it, but it was always meant to be too late, something like that. That is, of course, not the only type of monster, but that is, I think, the type of monster that Pennywise should be. And it's a shame that he isn't that way, but the new series is it inspires me to think of ways in which the same concepts could be done better. So there. Have a nice night. Have a nice one. Catch you later. Alligator.